Okay, you can get the door, Ravi, please. Boker Tov. We're learning about Shema. Page 152. I'm going to ask you to open up this Siddur with the special commentary by Rav Kook. It's the Rabbi Koren Sachs Cook Siddur. And on the bottom there's a little note explaining one meditation or one type of things to think about when you're reciting Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, more than the simple pshat, which it's not simple, but the first pshat we spoke about yesterday, from the words of Rashi, that what's described is some kind of historical progression. Right now, he's our God. In the future days, he'll be the one God for the entire world.
And this is the reason why we stretch out the Dalet?
That's what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
That's exactly what he's relating to. So page 152, Israel, you with us? Page 152, underneath the line, we stretch out the Dalet. Ravid, will you read for us?
Yeah.
It's underneath the line on page 152.
Okay. We stretch out the Dalet, the final letter of the word Echad. But in doing so, we are
Cautioned
not to read the preceding letter Het.
So we have to have the Chet and the Dalet as well. Baruch Hashem.
I don't know if it's reflecting these young men. Rabbi Elyon Shemesh, who teaches every Thursday in the Silat Yisharim, he's in Chutz La'aretz, but he's willing to zoom his shiur on a screen in the room. He wants to know if there are students interested today at 2 o'clock. Anyone interested?
Toda. Baruch Hashem.
Wow.
Baruch Hashem.
מה הרופא?
שבר?
שבר.
שבר. שבר ברור. באצבע, כן.
עשית אצלו?
כן.
במרפאה שלך יש ממש.
לא, בהטורים פה בירושלים. ברוך השם.
איפה טיפלת בזה?
בהטורים.
טורים. גבס?
כן, עד כאן. כל היד, בגלל חלק קטן של האצבע.
כמה זמן?
לא יודע, נראה.
מזל שיכולת לזכות השם.
ברוך השם.
אתה בכאבים עדיין?
אם לא מזיזים את זה, אז אין כאבים.
אתה צריך לצוע?
ברוך השם.
כן? יד
Hashem gave us 2 hands for a reason.
Yes.
Baruch Hashem. Yeah, I used to be able to drive with one and pick my nose with the other, but now I don't. So I only drive. That's it. Difficult, but I managed. Baruch Hashem. The opposable thumb was a great creation. They say that in evolution, this was a big stage when we got thumbs.
Wow.
And it's true for.
I told you now he doesn't do dishes.
His wife likes it.
Toda Rabba. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Okay, good morning, Eitan. We're learning about the Shema. We're just starting. There's a custom when you say the word Hashem Echad that you lengthen your pronunciation. So the Talmud says you should lengthen the Daled.
Right.
The problem is, if you look in the footnotes, it's almost impossible. The way we pronounce a Daled, you cannot make a Daled long. Because the sound the way we pronounce Daled, it's impossible to make it long. Look in the footnote, he says in 15:15, this is possible only if one pronounces the letter properly as a Daled Rafa, or soft consonant, whereby it sounds like a TH in the English word the. So if you say Echad, that's fine. You can say but we say d, not the, for a Daled. So we can't really do Echad. It doesn't work. So we do the best we can. If one pronounces it improperly as a dalet degusha, or hard consonant, with the sound D, like we do, it is of course impossible to draw out the sound. In phonetics, TH would be termed a continuant D, an oral stop, or plosive consonant, if you know your phonetics. Thus, properly pronounced, the word is echad, not echad. But we don't do that, so we do the best we can. Most people, what they do is they end up lengthening the sound before the dalid.
This is what I do, but
Right, me too, because you can't unless
but
you.
then I speak the Dalet very clear. I say echad.
Right, so that a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that. The duh is a mispronunciation as well, because there's something at the consonant at the end of a word is always like a shva nach, which means that it has no vowelization. So it's just echad, no duh. It's just the D, the consonant, is ending, as it says here. It's an oral stop. So that's better than say, because echad is not really a word. There's no such thing, right? I'll just do a little bit more of tiktuk. Since we're all learning Hebrew, that's fine. Oh, well, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Terrific. Sweet of you. Thank you. I feel okay. Terrific. So you have to know a little bit of diktuk. So there are. What sound is this? What's that called? What vowel is this called? It's called a kamatz. It has a name.
You are left-handed?
No.
Wow. Kamatz.
Kamatz. That's the name of the vowel.
Okay.
Then there's this vowel. What's that called? Okay, you'll learn these names. It's the names of the vowels. Patach, right? In modern Hebrew, the way we pronounce it, we follow the Sephardic pronunciation, and these are equal. We pronounce them the same way. Kamatz, they both pronounce the same way. Ashkenazi pronunciations are a little different. Not so important right now. Of course, you know that there's other vowels. There's vowels that have a vav, right? U. Also, the 3 dots underneath the letter is also, if it's in this direction, it's also U. Right. Yeah? Okay? Then there's many vowels. There's one vowel in particular that I want to teach you about now, and that is the vowel called the shavah. The shavah is actually not, it's a very strange. Shava. Not Sheva. Shava. Good morning. Shava. Really, I should maybe take out the E and Shava. Okay? The Shava. It's underneath the letter. Here's the letter. And it's 2 dots. And what is confusing is that there are 2 kinds. They have the same notation. One is called ashva na. In Hebrew, that's na. One is called ashva nach. That's nach. Nach means menucha. They both have the same, they look the same, 2 dots. And if you could say, this is more like an E, and this is more like nothing. It's just an oral stop. So there are some words when you see like the first word in the Shema Israel, page 152. There's a rule that whenever you have a shava at the beginning of the word, it's a shava na. So we say Shema. We give it almost a full vowel. A full vowel would be Shama. But it's not a full vowel, so it's just it's a minimal vowelization. Shema. It's like in Chinese, Shema, right? Shema. That's the Shava Na. That's what's called the Shava Na. Okay? It moves. There's a little bit of movement to it because it's. But if you look at the next, anybody see where the next Shava is in this sentence? Shema Yisrael. It's not Yisrael, right? Your name, Israel, has a Shava Nach in it. The example is Yis. That's the first syllable. Ra'el is the second syllable. Yisrael. So underneath the S here, there's no vowelization whatsoever. You don't say Yisrael. You say Yisrael. It's a stop. That's why it's called Shvat Nach, because it stops. It rests. It's just an ending of the syllable. As opposed to in the word Shema, this is the beginning of the syllable, Shema. So it has a little bit of a sound. Okay, it's a little diktuk. Why am I telling you this? Because when we're talking about now the word echad, and we say you want to elongate the dalid, what's the vowel under the aleph? That's the segol, it's called. Segol. And what's the vowel underneath the chet? It's a kamatz. As I said, using the Sephardic pronunciation, they're all echad. Now, there's a rule, whenever you have a consonant at the end of the word, it's a shva nach. So really, just like yis, you should end echad. There's no vowelization to the D, to the dalid, right? So echad, you'd be turning it into a shava na, which is incorrect. If it's at the end of the word, it's always echad. It stops, like yis. It's a shva nach. Even though we don't put any vowel, whenever it's the last letter of a word, there's no vowel. As you can see, there's no sign underneath the dalid. It's obvious. Like in Yisrael, the end of the la underneath the lamed, there's no vowel. Yisrael. It's not Yisrael. I taught some some fellows from Uganda. They have a very strange pronunciation. I think they learned it from a Spanish Portuguese community who came over from New York, and they taught them. But it's a little bit of a combination of the Spanish Portuguese and this African dialect. And they always add an oo at the end of every word. I'm trying to remember what it is. Or is it an oo? Something like that. But anyways, our pronunciation, we don't add anything at the end of the word. So if you want to extend the dalid, what most people do is they can't extend the dalid. You have to end. The dalid is really a stop. So they extend the chet. Which is really imprecise. Really, you should be extending, you should be pronouncing it. You can extend the th sound, and from your teeth you can do that. But we don't pronounce the daled that way. I think Hirsch is trying to pronounce his his Hebrew that way, based on the original pronunciation. But it's not common, and therefore we can't really do it properly. But again, it's not a mitzvah d'oraita, it's not a mitzvah d'orabbanan. This is a custom. What does it mean? Why should we extend the dalid, make the dalid longer? The Talmud says, if you extend the dalid longer, make sure not to skip the chet. You have to pronounce the chet and make the dalid longer. The Talmud, there's an anecdote. Ravid, keep reading and I'll take questions in a second. Let's just read it a little more. Rabbi Jeremiah was sitting on page 152 beneath the line.
Rabbi Jeremiah was sitting before Rabbi Hugai by Abba. He saw that he was mentioning already much the word Echad. He said to him, once you have established him as king above and below and to four directions, you need more.
Okay, so he says, don't go on Echad. You can go on forever. This is what apparently Rabbi Yirmiyah was doing. And his teacher told him, that's ridiculous. It's too much. How long does the Dalit have to be? He gives him an instruction. How long? How long?
Above, below.
So that enough time for you to think. What is Dalit? Dalit is the numerical value of Aleph, Bet, right? It's Gimel, Dalit. Four. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalit. Numerical value of 4. So as long as you have enough time to think that God is in the 4 directions, that's long enough. That's what his teacher told him. What did he say? Right? Once you've established him as king above and below, and to the 4 directions. 6. Also up and down. Okay, let's turn the page to page 155. Yeah.
When we read the Hebrew, we don't have the vowels. So how we can recognize to pronounce shva nach?
There are 5 rules, and that's Ulpan level, Bet Gimel, Dalid, Hey.
Wow.
These are very intricate rules of Dikduk that probably they don't even teach in Ulpan, because Ulpan they're trying to teach you spoken Hebrew usually.
Yes.
This is a more detailed Dikduk, the rules of grammar in terms of vowelization. This is if you want to be reading from the Torah, you have to be very careful to be able to read the Torah precisely. So I would love to teach that. There's books about it. Sure, there's books. In the Torah, there's no dots, but we follow the vowelization, which was transmitted orally, and then it was formalized by the Masoretes, who made up these vowels system. This type of, as we said the other day, there's different systems how to translate the pronunciation into vowel signs, the various vowel signs. There was the Babylonian system, the Tiberia system. We were in Tiberia. Our tour guide spoke a little bit about the Tiberia system of Nikud, of the dots, the vowelization, which we follow until today. That won out over the other systems. But it got developed over the course of history with more and greater and greater detail. We're not going to go into greater detail, but we're talking about how to pronounce the Echad. And we're going to try to now understand what it means. Okay, so page 155. Yes, underneath the line.
When we look to the words of Shema, above the shin, we have something like patah.
That's a later notation, which some Sidurim add, so that you can learn the difference between which is which. The 2 dots are going to look the same.
Yeah, right.
But they put a line on top to tell you this is a Sheva Na. Don't forget to say Shema. and not Shema.
But it's
Right?
not written in my Hebrew.
That's right. It's a later notation system in some places. In some Sidurim, they actually have a very interesting notation. If it's a Sheva Na, they'll have like they'll have square dots, and they'll be bolded.
Right.
And over here, they'll have them rounded and not bolded. Just to give you two versions of the same.
Is it like this? Here?
Correct. That's exactly what's going on. You show everybody the difference between the shava underneath the shin and underneath the sin. In the first word, it's square, and in the second word, it's rounded. Why? They're trying to teach you the difference between a shava na and a shava nach. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו.
I have a question about what you said yesterday, that we should focus on the prayer.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I'm still thinking about it, but it's impossible for me, because I mean, like, so many deep thinking that if I will be focusing, I will be all day, or I will never. I always need to go quick because, I mean, I'm on some parts I think about it, like, deeply, or what the meaning of the words means, but I mean, it's so many things, so deep that for me, it's like I can't grab it, the wholeness of everything. That's not the goal, isn't it? It's like understanding or
Right.
How to.
What did we say yesterday? We dealt with this question a little bit, but Ravid was asking, and I said he's a dancer. You have to learn how to dance in between saying the prayers quickly to join the community and to get used to the words. At the same time, you have to have the intention of the heart. And it's a dance that you'll be dancing your whole life. Sometimes you go slower, sometimes you go faster. Hopefully when you dance, when you practice more and more every day, the same routine, the same steps, you get better at it, right?
Yeah.
That's how the dancers get good at it. They try over and over and over again. You too also. You'll try to train your mind. One day, you just see the words Shema Yisrael, your mind will already be thinking about, the meaning of the words.
But I think, I do understand the Shema Yisrael. I'm trying to focus really on it,
right?
Like really thinking what we learn about. But I mean, the whole prayers, it's so amazing. It's like impossible for my brain to copy all of those things. One day, 140 years.
Listen,
but how to?
Who was the great man who said, "Even a journey of 100 miles starts with one step."
Yeah.
One step at a time. You practice on the Shema, and then you practice on the Amidah, and then you'll more and more be able to recite with intention more and more sections of the prayer. Yeah, I understand that there are a lot of words. It's a long service, but slowly but surely.
It's not a problem, but then you really go, and then your brain starts to sometimes. If you have some situation in life,
you have to know yourself. Yeah, you have to know and try to do it appropriately.
Challenge your thoughts, all of those things. It's pretty intense. Yeah. So that is it.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge, but it's beautiful to dance, and it's worth the effort. To train yourself, to train your mind, to train yourself 3 times a day. You have an opportunity to work on it, to try to pray and mean the words, say the words with meaning. But I definitely identify it's very difficult sometimes, especially for us moderns. we get another beep from our phones, from our pockets. Every second there's another, and life is busy. But this is a challenge for sure. It's a challenge. Yes, Ravid, go ahead.
When we talk about, let's say, spoken words, this is one side, but we also have the body language, like in dancing, it's very important. I think when we are praying,
Yes.
we need the soul language.
Aha. Right?
To feel words. It's not only to
Sure, we use all those. We use our posture. We're supposed to stand straight for Amidah, right? It's called the Amidah because we stand for it, because it affects us. And also singing. Sometimes we sing, teach you songs. Today's Thursday, B'ezrat Hashem. We'll pull out our Bir Konim, and I'll teach you a song, another song for Shabbat. B'ezrat Hashem.
Especially because we talked about the Echad.
Echad, yes.
So we strength the Dalek, like it's written.
Yeah.
I think this is soul language. To understand.
Okay, so what does it mean? What are we trying to understand? Let's read it inside. Let's read the interpretation. He goes into some depth. Yeah, Amos.
Sorry for, but I was thinking about it yesterday. It's about the tzitzit. Maybe we already talked about it because I wasn't here a couple of days. But I mean, some people with the Shema, they put the tzitzit on their eyes. Some in my siddur is that I should hold it in my hand.
Right.
And I saw different style, and as I learned with one Rav Kohen Chaim, he told us that he said that we shouldn't. It's not like necessary to do it. You know, even he mentioned that it's not like really big things.
Yeah.
And what is the all that about?
He is absolutely right.
Because
there are many instructions, many rules. It's always important to differentiate between the absolute obligations on the biblical level, obligations on the rabbinic level, customs which are ancient, customs which are new, customs which are in one community and not another community. There's so many practices and so it's very important to be able to distinguish between them. So this idea of holding the tzitzit in this way or that way, between this finger and that finger, these are much later after the Talmud. They're not an obligation whatsoever. In the Mariv prayer, when we recite Shema, we don't hold our tzitzit at all.
Yes.
So in the morning, you don't have to recite you don't have to hold them either. But holding the tzitzit is, sir? It's a custom. It's all the customs are beautiful and good. But it's important to know the difference between your basic important obligations and focus on them because there's so much to learn. There's so much to do. And you could get confused and say, well, I have to do this and focus on that when you'll be missing out on your basic obligation because you're so worried about holding the tzitzit. What about, you don't even have to cover your eyes. The Talmud suggests you should cover your eyes. The Talmud suggests you should say it out loud. You don't have to say it out loud, but it's an aid.
Please, to close your eyes.
Close your eyes. Also, not absolute. You don't have to. If you say your Shema Yisrael with the eyes open, you still fulfill your obligation. The obligation is to read the words and think, meditate upon the meaning of the words. That's what we're trying to understand now. So the simple meaning we already explained. Hear, O Israel, or listen, understand, the Lord is our God. The Lord is one. What does that mean? One. One God and not two gods. That's what we said yesterday. The other nations have other gods. So the Lord is our God now. And in the future, there'll only be one God because everybody will recognize the same God. So it's a question of one versus two, right? But that's a very strange meaning for the Lord is one. Because one and not two, it's kind of obvious. And also it's kind of problematic. Because if you say that it means that that there's one and not two, essentially you're putting God on the same level as all the other idols. They have other gods and we have our God. It's almost like they're on the same level. I can't show you the same level, right? But, and so therefore many commentators, from the Kabbalists all the way to the Rambam, they explain that when we say God is one, we're not just talking about how many there are. Monotheism versus polytheism. It means something else. The word echad also can be translated as not as one, but
Unity.
unity. It can be all-encompassing. That God is everything. God is everywhere, and everything is within God. So God is the ultimate. If He is, it's not just that He's one God and not two gods, but He is the one reality that there exists in the world. He created all, like the Rambam talks about philosophically, that everything else is dependent for their existence upon God, whereas God, His existence is independent. If the world were to be destroyed, God would still exist, right? But if God were to non-exist, we wouldn't exist either. So that's another element. But there's a third meaning of what it means for God to be echad, and echad means unique. The word in Hebrew, modern Hebrew, we say yachid versus echad. Yachid means unique, only one. He's one of a kind. One of a kind. Right? He's totally other, totally different than anything else that exists in the world. And that is what the Kabbalists speak about, and the Rambam refers to it as well. That when we say God is one, we shouldn't just be thinking, oh, He's one and not two. Well, every day when we say Shema, we're going to start thinking about the Trinity. Say, no three, but yes, one. No, we shouldn't be thinking about polytheism at all. Hashem Echad, when we say God is one, is that He is unique, very special, very different, other, in a way which is beyond our understanding. He is something that is someone who is beyond our concepts even. And there's only one like God. God is a unique, a very singular concept. But let's see, he's going to talk about that. He's going to talk about these ideas. We're about to read the passage. You want to say something before that?
Yeah, because it's also interesting, like the verse after Aleinu, the last one, it shows also like it's not about the entity, but I think more about that everything comes from Hashem, and what it say like in that time Hashem will be one.
Right. The truth is there in the Aleinu prayer, it does mention other gods and other nations worshiping other gods, and nobody will bow down to other gods, and then now they'll all bow down to the one God. So that's more similar to what Rashi's commentary that we said yesterday, that this is what this is referring to, monotheism versus polytheism. Yeah. The end. Hashem echad u'shmo echad, the end of Aleinu, right?
But is it also like that? That's what I think. that Hashem will be one is like on that time, because now it's hard to see like how is Hashem one, how is everything from Hashem.
Right.
But on that time it's like then you have the ability to see that oneness.
That's right. Ravid was mentioned before the custom to cover our eyes. Why do we cover our eyes? So we said it's to aid concentration. More than that, some people say, you know why we cover our eyes? Because if we open our eyes, we can't see God. Or God is not clear in this world. This world is called, in Hebrew, olam. Olam means hidden. Ne'elam, the modern word in modern Hebrew, ne'elam, something hidden, something we can't see. This world, in many ways, masks Hashem's presence. We see nature. You have to have perhaps very good glasses to be able to see God within nature. That's why we recite the Shema. But one way we signify that is we cover our eyes. And we say, we're not going to pay attention to the surface vision that we usually have of the world. In order to see beyond this world, we have to cover our eyes. And so when we say Shema, we close our eyes. Because we're trying to see the reality that's beyond what we can see with our human eyes. Another interpretation of why we cover our eyes for the Shema. Okay?
Why do you say Olam Haba then?
What do you
We will
mean?
see.
When? In Olam Haba we will see maybe, yeah. Maybe.
But I mean, the word Olam is like hidden, and the hidden Ba.
Listen, in Hebrew that's the way it works, that there's roots, one root, which is a number of different meanings. And you can't always go back to the root. When we say the word Olam, it means a world, right? It means this world, it means the next world. It's a concept. What is a world? You can have a physical world, you can have a planet, and you can have a conceptual world. The concepts that we have now. We speak about Olam Hazeh, this world, versus the coming world, the world to come. We're not necessarily speaking about historically in time, that this is this. Sometimes we do speak about the times of Mashiach is oftentimes associated with Olam Haba. Olam Haba is the next age in history. But it's also used as a metaphor for the spiritual world, which exists right now. Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba exist concurrently at the same time. It's just a different world of concepts, different world, different perspective on things. Sometimes we can't see. Some people can see. Do you see the angels all around me? The sages tell us that there's angels everywhere. Maybe even demons. Those bad spirits. I don't know. I look at my fingernails in the morning. I don't see any evil spirits. But our sages tell us that they exist, so I'm not going to argue. But maybe other people can see them. But it's a question of perspective. Maybe I'm not on the level. For sure, I'm not on the level of spirituality, of holiness, to be able to see with my waking eyes angels and spirits.
It's like Elisha, right? When he got surrounded by the army, and the army come, and then he's not afraid, and his servants afraid. But he said, "Oh, he prayed for Hashem, open his eyes, and then he sees thousands of chariots."
Exactly.
But he couldn't see it. In the
That's
first
right. Yafa me'od. Good example. Yafa, thank you. Yes.
I'm just thinking when you say, did you ever see an angel? In my opinion, just imagine you have this situation, you're sitting somewhere outside, you're very much depressive.
Yeah.
You don't see any more the the meaning of life, you are really broken, and you pray to Hashem and you ask him to help you.
Yeah.
And then suddenly a person is coming and doing, saying, whatever, something happens. And then he left. In my opinion, this moment, Hashem chose a human being to come to you. At this moment, he's an angel.
Yes. True. True. You can have angels
So I saw it.
in human form. Oh, beautiful. Yafa. My son yesterday, I was told a story that he was with his wife's family in the south, and he wanted to go back to where he studies in his yeshiva in Tiveria, all the way in the north, and they don't have a car, and he doesn't take buses, so he had no way of going. So he decided, okay, I'll go to the grave of the Baba Sali. Baba Sali is Rabbi Abu Hatzera, very famous rabbi who lived in Sderot, I believe, or Netivot, I can't remember. Netivot. Yeah, that's where his grave is, in Netivot. And so that's near where they live. So he went there and he was praying, and of course he's praying, God help me to travel. Somebody taps him on the shoulder. He says, "Hey Tom, do you want to lift to Tiveria?" This is, the entire length of the country. It's a 4-hour drive at least. Somebody happened to be there who knows him. So he was his angel. I understand it could happen to that. He's a very holy man. My son. Baruch Hashem. Anyways, Hashem Echad. God is one. The angels can be his messengers, but don't confuse them with God. Anyways, let's see what. So again, the word echad. Aleph, what's the gematria of Aleph?
One.
One. So that's all significant. We're talking about God being one. And Dalid, we said, is four. We said there's four directions of the map, of the compass, right? But what's the chet?
It's the 8.
Chet 8. What's 8?
It's the.
What's 8?
It's very significant.
It's like like 7 is within the creation, outside. It's like a new.
Oh, very interesting. We're going to see in just a minute. But together, what do they make, by the way? Once we're talking about the gematria. 1 plus 8 plus 4 is 13. What's the gematria of ahava? 13 principles of faith, maybe. There's another word, ahava, love. It's also 13. And 13 plus 13 is 26, which is the name of God. The Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. There's no end to the beautiful gematrias you can do with the math. In any case, let's read page 155, underneath the line. What is the 8? The 8, the number 8, symbolized by the letter Chet. So it says here, the 7 heavens. Ravid, can you read for us? On page 155. 155. Okay, Yisrael, you got it? 155? Pinchas, you got it? Underneath the line? Go ahead, Ravid. You read it out loud. The 7 heavens.
The 7 heavens and the earth are symbolized by the letter Chet, whose
Numerical.
value is 8, while the 4 winds are symbolized by the letter Dalet. The first letter of the word Echad, Aleph, symbolizes that God is one in heaven and earth and in all 4 directions.
Wow.
Yes,
Did you know that there were 7 heavens?
Uh,
Our tradition tells us there's 7 heavens.
Yes.
And then there's the earth.
This expression.
So 7 plus 1 is you go 7th heaven, right? You're in 7th heaven, right?
Yes.
It's a very old tradition
Yes.
that there's actually 7 heavens. And, of course, the earth. Together, that makes 8. So, when we say the word echad, and we think God is one, where is He one?
In all the heavens.
In all the heavens and the earth. And what part of the earth? All 4 directions of the earth. And above and below. Right? So, altogether, this is all the things we should meditate on when we're saying the word echad. Or lengthening out the dalid, which we can't really do. So, this is the idea. What's the idea? Go ahead. Most Jews
practice this strictly as a mental meditation during the ritual of the word Echad.
The recital.
Recital of the word Echad. However, some have the custom of moving the head corresponding to the thought, up and down, east, north, west, and south. The heavens remind us of the...
If you look in the footnote, for example, he says, some people say, don't do that. Don't move your head, because what might it look like? People crossing themselves. So we just think it. We don't move the head. But don't get confused. Okay? The heavens, go ahead. The heavens remind us.
The heavens remind us of the origin of the world, while the earth evokes the final purpose of the world. They are the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end of creation, and so they must not be passed over lightly. But what are most important from the human perspective are the 4 winds uniting heaven and earth. The 4 winds are the multitude of means necessary to bring about the purpose for which the world was created. They are our mission statement. They are where we live. For that reason, we draw out the letter Dalet symbolizing the 4 winds. Man must put together the
Seemingly, yes.
seemingly scattered 4 winds, unifying than harnessing them in the service of the Lord.
Service of the Lord. So so when we think about the four directions, northeast, north, south, east, and west, when we say Hashem Echad, God is one, we're recognizing that, and that we're going to use all of the different means that we have in this world, that's our world, in order to fulfill our mission, to serve Hashem. Yafeh. There's another mitzvah where we emphasize the different directions of the compass.
With the lulav.
That's right, the lulav. That's right, the lulav and a trog on Sukkot.
I'm just thinking.
But this is every day, but it's in our minds. It's in our minds. No, we don't shake anything. Even shaking your head don't make it. More things to do. With all the things to do, it's hard to concentrate. So this one, you're just saying. Most people, what they do is echad. In my mind, I'm thinking while I'm saying the Hashem is right, left, north, south, east, west, the heavens and the earth. The seven heavens with the
For me, it's something different.
echad. Okay.
When I think about the word echad, what I have in my head is like when you look to the process, any process, always there will be a start, a beginning. There only can be one beginning. So when Hashem created the world, He created the human, only one can do it. There's no number two. It's only one. Like in the process, there's one moment of the beginning.
Yeah.
And this is Hashem in any cases we have that. So for me, is this the meaning of Echad.
Yafeh. Good. Yeah, Eitan?
After you finish the Amidah, you do a few steps back.
Yeah.
And you also like you bow.
That's right.
You bow.
You bow, yeah.
Like this. Is that also about the west, east, and
Good idea, good thought, yeah. We don't do all four directions. We just do a little bit to the, 1, 2, 3. When we get to it, we'll discuss it. It's an interesting custom. Again, it's a custom. It's not. But you're right. There are other times that we Karazel Zev Amar. Also in the Kedusha, some people say we. Yeah. Well, it's just a way of. I see it just on the very prosaic level. It's all these postures, all these movements enhance our thinking, because it makes you active. It makes you active, keeps you awake, and it sort of signifies, helps you. Oh, we're talking about the different groups of angels singing to Hashem in the Kedusha. So we karazeh this group and that group. So we sort of nod our head in both directions to sort of make it more tangible that we're speaking about groups of angels that are singing. But there's many, many levels of interpretation of all the actions that we do, every movement. Right? In Islam, there are mystics called Sufi mystics. They dance. There's a mystical dance. Some people interpret that the swaying that many Jews do in prayer. In Yiddish, it's called shackling. I don't know why. Maybe it's from a German word. I don't know. To shackle is to sway or to move. Is there a German word there?
Yes.
What is it? What is
Shokel.
shokel? What does that mean?
Shokel. It's going.
It's to sway.
Yes.
Yeah, shokel. Shokel. It says many. It's used in many American Jews. They don't know German, but from the Yiddish they know, and this is called to shackle, right? So some people say it's just to enhance your concentration so you don't fall asleep. But it could be interpreted as some kind of a mystical dance. You use your body to pray to Hashem as well. And so there's many different levels of interpreting all these different movements. But here we're not talking about movement. Here we're just talking about what your thoughts are, what your intention is when you say the word Hashem Echad. I'll tell you what I think of is that there's another level of there's another concept in our spiritual worship of Hashem that we should nullify ourselves in front of Him. It's discussed a lot by the Kabbalists that we should not think of ourselves, and the Balei Musar, the people who speak about your ethical development. Don't make too much of yourself. I'm sorry.
It's the same when we are singing on Ceci de Legado D, when we move to the left and the right, especially when we sing the words of the Vatanek Rekala.
Could be. That's also another time we turn around our bodies, right? We welcome the Shabbat Queen. We do many different moves. Got to know your dancing moves in the Beit Knesset. No, it's not. I don't take calls in the middle of class. Thank you. So the Hashem Echad, as Michael mentioned, that God is everything, really. Almost that we are nullified in Him. There's a Eastern philosophy. They speak about how really nothing else exists in the world except for Him. Right? The world all exists sort of in God. So the mystics speak about unio mystica, union, the mystical union with God. That you don't exist as an independent person. You exist as part of God. You are part of God. You're like an extension of God. You're some instance. So much so, when you think about it, you meditate on this topic, really, if you are a drop of water, part of the sea, essentially you don't have any existence. You're not really separate from the sea. You're just part of God. We all know that we have a part of God within us. The neshama is called in our sources chelek eloka mima, part of godliness. So if we're part of God, so that we don't have any existence, that's the extreme of what it means to say that if God is one, it's not that He over there is one. If God is one, we're all part of Him.
We are image.
We are within Him. All there is in the world is godliness. And there is an element, there's a type of meditation, type of spiritual practice to recognize